Welcome back everyone to Formula 1 2020 and to your practice report here at Portimao for the 2020 Portuguese Grand Prix. As always, if you are new around here and have no clue what the practice report is, in today's video we'll be taking a look at today's two practice sessions, FP1 this morning and free practice 2 this afternoon, taking a look at the times, today's incident, and really just trying our best to look through the numbers, look through the data and work out which teams are looking good, maybe fighting for pole position, those podium positions, and which teams maybe not faring so great heading into this weekend's Grand Prix. So, of course, if you are new, feel free to subscribe. I hope you all enjoyed today's video, but we'll start off taking a look at our times from FP1, and once again it is Valtteri Bottas topping the timing sheets, a 118.410. Our previous lap record before this weekend was a 127.9 set in mid-season testing all the way back in 2009. Sebastian Buemi for Toro Rosso, but already in practice we are wiping the slate clean. Bottas a comfortable 3/10 in front of teammate Lewis Hamilton, both on the medium tyres. But perhaps what's more surprising is that Verstappen, Leclerc and Albon, P3, P4 and P5 all on the hard compound tyres, all within a second of Mercedes. This is a circuit which I believe will suit the Mercedes car. I think Mercedes are still going to be the team to beat, but certainly in the opening session, not as comfortable as it has been over the course of 2020. Carlos Sainz in that best of the rest slot in P6 in front of Sergio Perez, Kimi Raikkonen, a very impressive performance to get in the top 10 of the morning session. Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly rounded out the top 10. Sebastian Vettel struggled in the morning session, P11 was the best he could do. Lando Norris also struggled, but on the hard compound tyres, P12 wasn't the end of the world. Danny Kvyat was P13, 14th and 15th was Kevin Magnussen and Lance Stroll. Giovinazzi couldn't quite match the pace of his teammate in 16th place. 17th was Romain Grosjean, 18th George Russell, 19th Esteban Ocon and Nicholas Latifi rounded out the top 20. A quiet session for practice 1. The real story of note was actually right at the end. The checkered flag had fallen. Esteban Ocon, an engine power unit related failure, managed to nurse it back to the pit lane, but that is why the Frenchman is all the way down in P19 and did a much better job in the afternoon session. Our times in FP2 once again starting off with Valtteri Bottas P1. A far more carnage session. Usually I say with practice 2 it's the session where we generally see times that are more representative. Qualifying runs, race runs, we can usually take out a lot more data from practice 2 than we can in practice 1. But 2, yes, 2 red flag incidents, first off with Pierre Gasly and then an incident involving Lance Stroll, Max Verstappen, really mixed things up. And so our times, well, they're a little bit all over the place. Bottas was fast at a 117.9, half a second faster than his lap he was able to do this morning. Max Verstappen on the mediums was just 5/10 behind Valtteri Bottas. I think he could be a bit of a surprise package this weekend. And Lando Norris, in the dying seconds of the session, just made it up into the top 3. Charles Leclerc looking pacey and looking racy this weekend. He was up in P4. His teammate for next year, Carlos Sainz, was P5, and his current teammate, Sebastian Vettel, P6. Seb did have a spin in the afternoon session, but was much closer to his teammate, and in all fairness, Ferrari, this looks like their best weekend all year long. But again, lots of incidents today. Do not take these lap times as gospel. Gasly was P7 despite having a huge fire ending his session early. Hamilton P8, again, don't be alarmed at these times. Ocon 9th and Alex Albon rounded out the top 10. George Russell in 11th place, an awesome lap before our red flag incident later on in the session with Verstappen and Lance Stroll, meaning Russell's time on the mediums, though it's impressive, again, not very representative of Williams' true pace. Sergio Perez, the lead racing point in P12. Ricciardo down in P13. Latifi, a good session from him in 14th place. Raikkonen on the hard tyres was P15. Magnussen, Kvyat and Grosjean 16th, 17th and 18th. Lance Stroll and Giovinazzi rounded out your field. And what an eventful day it was. So many drivers pushing to try and find the limits. Portimao, the circuit, is awesome. But it's also a circuit that a lot of these drivers have never ever raced at before. Formula 1 has never been here before, so finding that limit was so tricky. It's a punishing circuit, gravel traps here, there and everywhere, and we saw several drivers get caught out by that. Grosjean went straight through the gravel very early on in the session. Danny Kvyat had several spins. Sebastian Vettel almost running into the back of Nicholas Latifi. Latifi had a couple of spins. Verstappen had one this morning. All a little bit carnage for a practice session, but that's what we want to see, and that's why so many people are calling out for less practice sessions. Make it more frantic, make it so the drivers has to push to find these limits, really puts them under that little bit more pressure heading into qualifying and the Grand Prix. Those big incidents then, Pierre Gasly catching fire halfway through the afternoon session. The man who is practically on fire in terms of his form and talent this year seems to be having these little mechanical issues which really isn't helping his cause in 2020. We saw a very similar incident all the way back at the Hungarian Grand Prix at the start of the season, if you remember. His car catching fire in morning practice. Again, in qualifying it didn't work, and in the Grand Prix after a great start, once again broke down. It's happened here. Will it continue over to tomorrow? Will that mean some kind of penalty? We're not too sure just yet, but what I will say, that was a lot of damage, and it looks very likely that car is going to pretty much have to be built from scratch overnight. A lot of work to do for the AlphaTauri team. I would expect one, maybe two, or maybe even a pit lane start for Pierre Gasly. So not so great for the Frenchman so far. And the big incident of the day, Lance Stroll and Max Verstappen making contact into turn one. Stroll on a lap, Verstappen on a lap. Verstappen tries to go up the inside. Stroll doesn't give him any room. Bottom line is, silly from the both of them. You shouldn't be fighting like that in a practice session. I would be surprised if either of them got a penalty. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But what I will say is if we saw fighting like that into turn one in practice, I cannot wait, first of all, to see them fighting through turn one during the Grand Prix. But lap one is going to be so good through the first corner and that whole first sector. Love this place. I really, really do. Before we go then, let's take a quick look at the running order I believe to be at this weekend's race, and then we'll take another look at your predictions from yesterday's preview video. So, this is what I've gone with this weekend. The predicted running order, once again, I've put Mercedes at the top of the list, a no-brainer really. Red Bull, I think, are going to be closer to Mercedes, much closer than I thought they would be this weekend. I've put Ferrari as the third best team. They're looking really strong, and actually Sebastian Vettel seems to have found a little bit of pace, especially in practice 2. McLaren 4th, Racing Point 5th, Renault 6th, all look interchangeable, but AlphaTauri, in the hands of Pierre Gasly, looked really good, but when the car's on fire, not so good. So I think 7th is probably the best they're going to be aiming for this weekend, and it's our traditional back three: Alfa Romeo 8th, Haas 9th, and Williams P10. Before we go, yesterday I gave you this grid, your predictions, and the 2 most liked comments will be featured in today's video. So I asked for, in qualifying, who's going to be on pole position, who's going to be on the front row, and who is going to be the biggest shock in the race. Who is the winner? Who will be on the podium? Our first retirement, driver of the day, and best of the rest. And our runner-up this week is Cheyenne 2, who has gone with a Lewis Hamilton pole position with Max Verstappen on the front row. Our biggest shock in qualifying, Valtteri Bottas with engine issues to not make it to Q3. In the Grand Prix, though, it gets even more carnage with a Verstappen win, Leclerc and Romain Grosjean, I love you man, Grosjean on the podium, Hamilton to retire, Hülkenberg to get driver of the day, that he has specified that he is replacing Stroll for whatever reason into the Grand Prix, and Daniel Ricciardo to be best of the rest. And your winner this week is Raghav Dalea, and he has gone with a Max Verstappen pole position, a Max Verstappen win, Hamilton be on the front row, but just like our previous prediction, Hamilton to retire with an incident with Bottas on the opening lap. It's Ricciardo who's P3 in qualifying. He will also make it to P2 and on the podium, but along with his teammate Esteban Ocon to get his first podium in Formula 1, driver of the day with Carlos Sainz best of the rest. And that is your lot here for the Portuguese Grand Prix practice report. I will be back tomorrow for your qualifying review. This is an awesome circuit. I cannot wait. We've seen upsets already in practice. I think we're going to see a couple more in the Grand Prix and maybe even in qualifying tomorrow. Give me your predictions in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts about Verstappen and Stroll. If you are new, feel free to subscribe. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.